All right, we've all been there, right? You get to the very last page of that biology paper, and boom, there it is, the big one. The question that feels like it could make or break everything. Well, today, we're not just going to face that question. We are going to absolutely own it. Let's get into it. So this is question 7 from an AQA GCSE higher tier paper. And yeah, it's a bit of a beast, worth a massive 14 marks. But don't you worry. By the time we're done here, you're going to have a complete blueprint for how an examiner wants you to answer this, step by step, mark by mark. So how in the world do you tackle a question this huge? Simple. We break it down. We are going to deconstruct this thing into its 5 separate parts, and we'll look at the exact skills and knowledge it's trying to test. Yeah, this isn't just one question. It's practically a mini exam all on its own. It's testing your skills on interpreting graphs about hormones, handling a pretty chunky calculation, explaining biological processes, and even solving 2 different genetics problems. So let's start with part 1. Okay, the very first mark comes from just reading a graph. You're given a chart showing hormone levels and follicle volume over a bunch of days. The question basically just asks you to connect the dots. The question is pretty direct. Prove that follicles release estrogen, but you can only use evidence from the graph. It's just a 1-mark question, so you want a short, sharp, and super precise answer. And there it is, the perfect answer, straight from the mark scheme. It's literally just a direct observation. It just says, as volume of follicles rises, estrogen concentration rises. You're just describing what you see on the graph. One line goes up, the other line goes up. That's it. Simple, direct, and a guaranteed mark in the bag. Now, this is where it gets really interesting. Look at the examiner's notes. You get the mark for saying there's a correlation or that they're in proportion. But check out what you don't get the mark for, saying one causes the other. Correlation is not causation. Being that precise with your scientific language is absolutely key to banking these marks. Okay, let's switch gears and move on to the calculation. This one is worth 5 marks. That's a huge chunk of the total. For questions like this, showing every single step of your work is just, it's not optional. Think of it as a safety net. Even if you mess up the final number, you can still scoop up marks for your method along the way. So the question wants the number of follicles on day 11. It tells us the mean diameter is 22 millimeters. And here is a classic exam trick. They give you the diameter, but the formula needs the radius. The number 1 mistake here is forgetting to cut 22 in half to get your radius, which is 11. Don't fall for that one. Let's just walk through this mark by mark. You get 1 mark just for putting the right numbers into the formula. That's your 11 for the radius. You get a 2nd mark for actually calculating the volume of 1 follicle. A 3rd mark for reading the total volume from the graph on day 11. A 4th for setting up the division correctly, and that final 5th mark for getting the answer and rounding it to the nearest whole number. 5 easy steps, 5 marks. And there's our answer. 7 follicles. By showing all 5 of those steps nice and clearly, you've shown your entire thought process and you've locked in every single mark. Okay, we're back to pure biology for a 2-mark explain question. Now that word explain is a clue. It means we need to build a logical chain that connects a cause to an effect. So the question is, why would a lack of FSH lead to underdeveloped breasts? And here is the perfect 2-mark answer. The first point links the lack of FSH to a lack of estrogen. The second point links that estrogen to breast development. See that? It's exactly what examiners are looking for. It's a clear 2-step hormonal pathway, where A leads to B, which leads to C. All right, let's keep going and see how this all builds. We're now diving into genetics, a topic that, comes up all the time. This is a classic Punnett square problem, and it's worth 3 marks. The key bit of info here is that both parents can produce FSH, but their child can't. That's a logic puzzle. It tells you that the condition must be recessive, and crucially, both parents have to be heterozygous carriers. Their genotype has to be HH. Getting that right is the foundation for everything that follows. So, here's the Punnett square. You get 1 mark for correctly identifying the parental gametes. That's a big H and a little h from both parents. Then you get a 2nd mark for correctly filling in the 4 possible offspring genotypes, HH, 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 and HH. Always lay this out clearly, make it easy for the examiner to follow. And for that final, crucial 3rd mark, you have to link these genotypes to their phenotypes, what they actually do. This is the step so many people forget. You have to write out that HH is the genotype that means the person does not produce FSH. Without that final link, you can't get full marks. And just like that, you've shown exactly how the parents could have an affected child. We are on the home stretch now, the final 3 marks of the question. We're sticking with genetics, but adding a little bit of probability. This is another explain question, so again, we need to lay out our reasoning clearly in words. So the scenario is set. The woman has the genotype HH. She has a child with a man who is heterozygous, HH. The question asks us to explain why there's a 0.5 or a 50% chance their child will be able to produce FSH. So here's the key. You have to break it down like this. Now, an examiner tip. You can't just draw another Punnett square for this one. Because it's an explain question, you have to write out the logic. First mark. You state that the mother can only pass on H. Second mark. You state that the father can pass on either H or H with an equal chance. And the third mark. You combine those facts to conclude there's a 0.5 probability of getting the HH genotype, which is the one that produces FSH. And that is your full mark answer. And we did it. We've broken down all 14 marks. So what's the big takeaway here? Let's zoom out and create a blueprint for success that you can use on any complex multi-part question like this one. Here it is. Be precise with your language. Show all your working and math problems, master your diagrams, and more importantly, know what each part actually represents. When a question says explain, build that logical chain of events. And above all else, read the question carefully to give the examiner exactly what they are looking for. And that's the real question, isn't it? These big questions aren't there to trick you. They're there to let you show off everything you know. And with this blueprint, you're not just answering the question. You're ready to go out there and build a fantastic grade. Thanks for following along.